Hi folks, my name is Tris, and this is No Boilerplate, where I focus on fast, technical videos. Both the co-writer of this video, Bob Dotto, and I are professional writers, and if you are too, you need to know about Obsidian. There is a line from David Allen's seminal text on productivity, Getting Things Done, that whether or not people know it, is always in the background of any conversation on writing, which is, your mind is for having ideas, not holding them. The problem is that ideas kept in the head, while they may feel articulated, comprehensive, and even profound, in reality remain in their infancy. Anyone who has ever tried to write down their thoughts knows this firsthand. What felt clear ends up being vague. What felt profound becomes far less so. It's hard to remember your thoughts, in part because they're so riddled with gaps, twists, turns, and dead ends. For the writer, keeping an entire book in our head is our own personal purgatory. I dedicate my video scripts to the public domain. Everything you see here, script links and images, are part of a Markdown document available freely on my website, namtal.com, and GitHub. The solution since the beginning of history has been for the writer to keep notes on the books, papers, and writing we're working on. Get the thoughts out of our mind and organized on paper. In computers, we've been given an enormously powerful tool to solve this problem we created for ourselves. Today, unlike Shakespeare, Jane Austen, and Hemingway, we have access to spreadsheets, wikis, note software, Google Docs, and so on, all accessible through a web browser, perfectly backed up in case of hard disk crash, laptop theft, or even acts of God. But to access this marvelous new world of writing software, we had to give up one thing: ownership of our text files. Enter Obsidian. At its most basic, Obsidian is a text editor, albeit one with a user interface that allows you to engage with tiny files stored locally on your computer in an incredibly dynamic way. This malleable user interface acts like a skin. The files remain the same, but the skin can change as needed, viewing and editing your files like a word processor, or a wiki, or a database, or any combination you want. For the technically minded, Obsidian allows you, should you wish, to treat your notes as a database and write code to do anything with it you can imagine. Even non-programmers can take advantage of this, thanks to the thousands of plugins available in the app, with more being published every day. One of the key features, and certainly one of the most highlighted by both users and the platform itself, is that Obsidian runs offline. At first glance, that might not sound like a big deal. We live online, most of our tools live online, and thanks to cloud-based platforms, so too does our writing live online. So why would we want to move ourselves and it offline? As it turns out, when you do so, you gain superpowers. The most immediate benefit is also the most obvious. No requirement to have an internet connection means no dependency on having one. You can write in a forest without Starlink, at a cafe with no Wi-Fi, on a plane without being extorted for in-flight internet. Your work is always accessible, always editable, because it's not sitting on a server somewhere, it's sitting on your computer. This distinction, your computer versus a server, matters more than it might initially seem, and is made possible because your files are actually your files. For most people who've grown up working in cloud-based tools like Google Docs, or the rest of us who have got used to it, the idea of storing files locally can feel almost quaint. Local file storage gives you a sense of control, a genuinely rare thing in the modern software landscape. With Obsidian, you're not dependent on a Wi-Fi connection, you're not at the mercy of a tech company's account policies, you're not quietly feeding your writing into a surveillance apparatus or AI training algorithm. You're starting from a position of ownership. For a writer, that's no small thing. Your writing is everything. A combination of good design decisions makes writing in Obsidian feel not only fast and secure, but also enjoyable and productive. Obsidian, like WhatsApp, Discord, many websites, and sometimes Facebook, depending on the phase of the moon, formats text using a lightweight standard called Markdown. You've probably used it already. Markdown is really simple to use and is designed to look good both in plain text and when rendered as rich text, unlike Word files or HTML, which are unreadable by most people unless rendered in the app or browser. Here we've got a heading, denoted by the hash symbol, italic with underscores, bold with double asterisks, and links using double square brackets. There are a few more options available, which you can look up here, but this is the overwhelming majority of formatting you'll need on a day-to-day basis. If this style of formatting doesn't vibe with you, then Obsidian's Formatting Toolbar plugin is what you need. The beauty of writing in Markdown is that it allows you to focus on the content, with only minimal attention needed to its presentation. As a writer, you shouldn't care about that until publishing. All it takes is committing a few keyboard shortcuts to memory, which you can customize to make even more intuitive, and 99% of your day-to-day formatting needs will be met, literally, at the tips of your fingers. This has been extremely beneficial to me as a professional writer with deadlines. Writing on keyboards means typing on keyboards. Markdown integrates formatting into the typing you're already doing. As you write, you can type all the formatting you need, never stopping to click or swipe. It's a seamless process that keeps you focused on the work at hand, the work that's going to get you paid, not the appearance of those words. Never having to leave the keyboard leads to speed, which, although not a metric most people equate with good writing, is actually kind of crucial to the whole process. Just ask George R.R. Martin. The fact that your hands never leave the home row means you're not breaking the flow of the writing itself. You're getting more words on the page in less time. This has a direct effect on speeding up the transition from no draft to first draft. For my full thesis on this, watch my video, Writing at the Speed of Thought. Forever is a strong word, but if history is anything to go on, plain text will be around for a very long time, which means your writing will too. Working inside plain text Markdown doesn't just ensure us against the obsolescence of our tools, but gives us superpowers today. Imagine you wrote a book in, say, the Google Docs ecosystem, and want to see what plugins or integrations are available to help organize, modify, or publish your writing. How many apps have a Google Docs plugin? Quite a few. There are spelling and grammar checkers, collaboration tools, brainstorming tools, outlining tools, and mind mapping tools. There are probably hundreds, thousands even. But they all must use Google's API to work on your documents. Which means Google get to decide if they can, not you, and they must be kept up to date with Google's changing cloud services. This gatekeeping is good for Google's bottom line, of course, it's why they do it, but it's very bad for us as writers. Contrast this with writing your book in Obsidian as a simple plain-text Markdown document. How many tools work with Obsidian? Well, there are about 5,000 native Obsidian plugins at the time of recording, but probably not many external tools. In fact, neither Scrivener, nor Microsoft Word, nor Google Docs, none of the big word processors will support Obsidian. It's just too small for them to bother with. But wait, they all support Markdown. So the number of tools that you can use with your manuscript isn't limited by the ones that work with Obsidian, but how many work with Markdown. Okay, that might be tens of thousands, but it gets better. Markdown is just plain text sequential human-readable ASCII characters arranged in lines. That means any tool that works with plain text files works with your Obsidian manuscript. How many tools are there that work on plain text in the world? Like a million. Static site generators, collaboration tools, Discord bots, editors of all kinds, including the ones you might already be using, such as VS Code, offline grammar and spell checkers that don't train AI on your words, and tools for joining and splitting files into chapters by speaker or topic or location. By using a standard instead of an ecosystem, you gain superpowers you didn't know existed. If this is all a little overwhelming, I quite understand. I've had 6 years of editing and tweaking my setup to get to this stage. If you would prefer a turnkey solution, I have built a pre-configured Writer's Vault as a bonus download for all those who support me at any level here on my Patreon. I also offer regular mentoring. If you'd like one-to-one tuition on ADHD and autism, personal organization, programming, creative production, or anything I talk about in my videos, do sign up and let's chat. Writers tend to stick with whatever platform they've been using that makes the sometimes chaotic experience of writing feel more manageable. And if it ain't broke, why fix it? But a lot has changed for better and for worse in the world of writing platforms, hasn't it? And if you've been using one of the major platforms for decades, you may be missing out on some of the positive changes outside them, and have forgotten about the slow degradation of features inside them. Here are a few basic Obsidian features that you may not have known you need. Writers who use Google Docs, Apple Pages, and Word are probably not familiar with the wonder of using links, because although you can make links in these tools, they are annoying to use and clearly not supposed to be a core part of your workflow. Obsidian, like our own brains, treats links as a core feature and function. Having the capability to easily link between your notes and files means you can quickly scaffold ideas and writing around the relationships between them, not just categories. You can also refer to other documents or parts of documents that you want to return to later. This proves invaluable when working on multiple documents covering different aspects of the same topic, even more crucial for those who write books and have multiple chapter files. If you use, say, Scrivener, you can learn to organize your writing by labels, statuses, and scenes, some of which can have metadata attached. That's nice of the Literature and Latte team to provide us, but compared to Obsidian, extremely inflexible. Because if your editor supports links, like Obsidian does, you can easily organize your writing with structures that make sense to you and your story, as simple or as nested as you like with just a few keystrokes. Writers who edit their work inevitably need to move around paragraphs and sections. Obsidian makes this effortless with a simple keyboard shortcut, no cutting and pasting required. So long as your cursor is in the paragraph you want to move, you can just press the shortcut and the paragraph will move up or down. This is especially useful during structural edits, when experimenting with the orders of ideas rather than the words themselves. This allows you to rearrange your thinking in real time. For larger rewriting tasks, you can also move entire sections of your draft by clicking and dragging the heading in the outline in the right-hand panel. This is particularly helpful when using the Obsidian mobile app. No more dragging your finger highlighting multiple paragraphs and tables hoping you catch everything. Just open the sidebar, long press the heading, and drag it and all text inside that section where you want it. At the heart of Obsidian are plugins, toggleable options that expand the features of the editor in large and small ways. These can be one of the 30 or so that are built in, or the nearly 5,000 made by the passionate community, all for free. Even with all plugins turned off, Obsidian is the best distraction-free Markdown text editor on the planet. But turn on a few built-in plugins such as bases, and it doesn't take much to have a powerful organization system for writing without installing any third-party plugins. My use of Obsidian's tools like data view and bases is greatly enhanced by my background as a programmer, and there's no more exciting language to learn today than Rust. If you're interested in learning my favorite language, then do consider Let's Get Rusty for Rust training both corporate and personal, with a new cohort starting next month. Visit letsgetrusty.com/start with Tris, linked in the pinned comment, to find out more about the training, and thanks so much to Let's Get Rusty for sponsoring my channel. Of course, while you shouldn't clutter your Obsidian with loads of plugins you don't need, there are a few that I find so uniquely useful to me in my writing that you simply must use. Scroll offset, a feature that is sometimes called typewriter scrolling. This keeps the current line in the middle of the page, allowing you to read the context above and below without wasting time reaching for your mouse and scrolling. Linter, what's better than a style guide? A style guide that corrects you automatically when you save. Wordy, a combination of thesaurus, rhyming dictionary, alliteration lookup, and a dictionary. Hotkeys for templates. If you regularly type the same thing over and over again, perhaps scene direction or an editing checklist, then you should certainly use the built-in templater plugin. And if you find you use certain templates very frequently, you may wish to make a hotkey for it. Bases, data view, and tasks. The power and beauty of Obsidian is that while the entry-level complexity is extremely low, it can be used only as a plain text notepad if you wish, there are no upper limits to how complex you may make it. Built-in tools such as Bases and Canvas hint at this, but the ecosystem of plugins shows just how flexible plain text is. For the writer, none is more obvious than the last plugin I'll mention, Storyline. Storyline is a comprehensive story writing framework with scenes, plot hole detection, pacing guidance, reading complexity statistics, and far, far more. Especially from those refugees from Scrivener, you will feel right at home in this plugin, but without any of Scrivener's constraints. Beware of toxic productivity, however. Community plugins are some of the most interesting and exciting aspects of the Obsidian ecosystem, so much so that some people find it hard to resist tinkering with their setup rather than using it. I, of course, can't empathize with this position, and haven't spent 6 years tweaking my system. It's important to remember, and this is especially true for writers, that the platform you design and the functionality you design it for should be just good enough. There is no perfect system, but there are systems highly tuned towards writing. This should be our goal, and I hope one day to learn it for myself. There are very few downsides to using Obsidian for writing, but it would be disingenuous to not mention the few that get brought up in the community. I especially want to mention these now, because if you do decide to try out Obsidian, they're going to rear their heads fairly quickly, and I want to help you past them. While Obsidian is one of the simplest platforms to use, if your only experience with writing is using Google Docs, opening up Obsidian for the first time can feel a bit daunting. Mostly because of how little there is to see. Missing are the flashy toolbars, constant helpful pop-up suggestions, and familiar colorways of the bigger writing platforms. But I promise, if you take a few days to get used to how Obsidian works, you'll soon see why so many writers have made the leap. Obsidian is not easy, but it is simple. Though for the power user, there are comprehensive hotkeys to do everything inside Obsidian, if you only ever use one hotkey, make it the one to open the command palette, a searchable list of all functions in the app. On Windows and Linux, it's Control-P. On Mac, it's Command-P, P for palette. Printing your writing from Obsidian requires an added step of first converting your Markdown file to a PDF or Word document, which, although can be done quickly and with only a few keystrokes, can feel like unnecessary friction. It's a small price to pay for the many other benefits that come with writing in Obsidian, and I think a blessing in disguise. Think of it like the so-called Hemingway method. As a writer, separating the semantics of your writing from the presentation of what it looks like cuts to the heart of what you should be focusing on, the words, and what your publisher should be focusing on, everything else. Whether or not Hemingway actually wrote Drunk and Edited Sober, you should split up these two modes. But what if you are both writer and publisher? The Enhancing Export plugin is essential for the solo publisher, using Pandoc behind the scenes. Pandoc lets you write presentations, draft books, make web pages, and write assignments all in Markdown and export to whichever format you fancy, without leaving Obsidian. It does this by using LaTeX behind the scenes, an industry standard in the publishing world for 42 years, though if you want something newer, typed plugins are also available. I'd need a whole video to explain this extremely comprehensive system, but you don't have to worry about it yet. Just get writing in Markdown, safe in the knowledge that every publishing format is available to you when you need it. One of the long-standing issues people have with Obsidian is its lackluster collaboration ability. Collaborating with colleagues is simply not a core function. The files are on your computer, not theirs. But it's not impossible. In fact, this video, which is a collaboration between Bob Dotto and I, is proof that it can happen, and with relative ease. Of course, you will need to install a plugin to make it happen. We used the free Screen Garden. Others such as PeerDraft work well too. And if you've come from the engineering world, Git and all the plain text collaboration tools are available, of course, too. In the end, using Markdown, and thus keeping your hands on the keyboard, keeps you, the writer, in the writing process by bringing work that would otherwise take you out of the process back in. You can now choose when you want to pause and employ a little helpful distraction rather than the tools you're using, making that decision for you. This video would not have been possible without my co-writer and friend Bob Dotto. I reached out to Bob after reading the best primer on the Zettelkasten system, his book, A System for Writing, which he drafted in Obsidian. I was writing my own video on the topic at the time, which would eventually become my Obsidian for Learning series, and wanted advice from the master. I can't say enough positive things about the book. You may buy it at bobdotto.computer or Amazon. If you would prefer to buy a DRM-free ebook, I successfully bullied Bob into releasing this on his Gumroad. You're welcome. All links are below. If you are a writer of any kind, your creative process will be dramatically improved, as mine was, by reading this short Zettelkasten guide. Thank you, and happy writing. Announcement. I will be doing an Obsidian deep dive livestream for my supporters on Patreon on Sunday the 12th of July at 6 PM London time, 1 PM Eastern, 8 PM Pacific. During the stream, I'll be fielding questions about Obsidian, both general use and tips, as well as how I use it, going through the 100 plus plugins I keep installed. If you aren't subscribed and would like to come, you are most welcome to sign up for just a month, drop into the livestream, grab the Patreon vault, and then unsubscribe. It'll be lovely to see you all. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.